when I was a sophomore in college here at Sac State, I was obnoxious in telling every single person who would listen to me that I was going to be the president of Sacramento State.
Wow.
And so I have worked my entire life to get to this moment. So when I see people in the morning, they ask me, "Hey, Luke, how are you doing today?" I say, living the dream, because that's what I'm doing.
Because you truly are living the dream.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's going to be more about a student's potential to be successful and if they're deserving, rather than focus on race, nationality, and where they're from, and
all
gender.
are welcome here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And you know, that's something a student like me who was like 10 years ago looking for education would have loved to hear. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our podcast here at iSchool Connect and Global Survival Guide. And today we're at Sac State, is how they call it with love. It's Sacramento State, which is also part of the California State University system, the CSU. You saw me fumble a little bit because UC and CSU for me are always, figuring out. But
yeah, so think about it like this. Think of the UCs as your backup school if you can't get into Sac State.
And we're here with, I'm the only guy who laughed, you're like, that's not even a joke. But we're here with President Luke Wood, president of Sac State, and you came into office early last year. And since then, I've been reading a lot about you, especially about your story. I'm really inspired by it because I have a personal story too, of how I came to this country and how I launched iSchool. So I'm really excited to have a chat about you. It's not just about the school and what international students want to hear, but it's also about the essence of Sac State and the essence of you. Okay. So welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the work that you do.
Appreciate it a lot. We would like to start with why Sac State for you, and what's that one story behind here? I know there's a coming back home story. Would love to hear that.
Yeah, so I went to school at Sacramento State. I got my bachelor's degree here, got my master's degree here. I met my wife here. My twin brother went to school here. I lived in the residence hall right over there. I joined my fraternity here. So this is home base for me. And what drew me to Sacramento actually is the very first time I was ever exposed to Sacramento State is my music teacher, my piano teacher growing up was a graduate of Sac State. And so she would always talk about Sac State. But most people where I'm from went to Chico State, not to Sac State. But I came here as a junior in high school for a conference, and I fell immediately in love with the campus. So first of all, we have a beautiful 300-acre campus. It's like a park, right? There's wildlife, there's trees all over. It's very serene. It makes you just feel at peace. The second thing was the diversity. I'm from a very homogenous area, not a lot of people who are from different backgrounds. And you see people who are from Japan, from India, from different parts of the United States, different parts of California, different racial, ethnic backgrounds, different gender identities. And so it's just this beautiful diversity here in this beautiful park-like environment. And then the third thing that brought me here was our proximity to the Capitol. So the Capitol is not very far from here. And we have a lot of students who are interested in either working for government agencies or doing work that helps to support government agencies, and we are, a big government here in Sacramento. It's a government town. And one of the things I tell people that makes Sacramento State distinct from any other university is that we are the one and only public university in the state capital of the 5th largest economy in the world. So what happens here, what you learn here will truly change the world.
The first time when you came here, this was when you were how old?
I was a kid. I was 17, 18 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I was here for 7 years. And then after I got my bachelor's degree, master's degree, I went and did a pre-doctoral fellowship at Stanford. And then I went to Arizona State, got a master's degree, and then a PhD. I taught for a year in Tennessee, and then got recruited by San Diego State, which is also part of the CSU system.
Sure.
Worked at San Diego State for 12 years. But when I was a sophomore in college here at Sac State, I was obnoxious in telling every single person who would listen to me that I was going to be the president of Sacramento State.
Wow.
And so I have worked my entire life to get to this moment. So when I see people in the morning, they ask me, "Hey, Luke, how are you doing today?" I say, "Living the dream," because that's what I'm doing.
Because you truly are living the dream.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And when you were studying here, what made you say you want to be the president? Did you want to change something? Did you want to continue the good work? What was the...
Yeah, I mean, there was good things that were happening that I wanted to see advance. Like, back then the campus had a really strong population of students who were international students. A lot of my closest friends. I mean, I felt like we learned so many things from one another. That was beautiful. Obviously the proximity to the Capitol, opportunities for internships to be able to work at the Capitol. So there was things that were already really good. But I think for me, what really stood out is that back then, we did not have the same kind of graduation rates that we do now. And so you would see it where a student would come into the campus and they would not always graduate. And in fact, we had very low graduation rates back then. Fortunately, the president before me, President Robert Nelson, did a really good job of helping the campus to increase graduation rates. So they've gone up like 222 something percent. So we have respectable graduation rates at this point. But that being said, there's still gaps between certain students and their peers. And for me, it's a life mission to make sure that every single student that goes to school here has the support they need, has the environment they need, and has the education they need to walk across that stage of graduation. Because what happens here at Sac State is that we create upward social and economic mobility. So we take people who many institutions would be like, they're never going to be something, and we make them into doctors and lawyers and engineers and college presidents.
Fantastic. I was reading some of your articles on that, and you focus, while you're focused on student success a lot, you talk about that a lot. You're specifically focused on food security and home security.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about when you walked into the campus until now in the last 1 year, like what's changed since the time you were here and you faced some of those problems yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so I came here. So I should say that I was born while my mother was in prison. So I immediately became what we call a ward of the court and then went into foster care. So then I was part of this foster home, very large foster home that basically moved up to far northern California. And then there was about 14 of us in the home at any one point in time. They had over 350 children who were in the home. So I'm one of 350. And so then when I came to Sacramento State, I was coming to this environment as a first generation college student, as a former foster child, as a Black male student, but I also struggled with issues such as food and housing insecurity. So sometimes I go 2 or 3 days at a time without eating. Literally scrounge up change off the ground to go to like nearby places and try to get something to eat. I struggled with where I was going to live. I didn't always have a stable place. And for me, that experience helps to cement what role we should have as educational leaders to make sure that students don't have to experience that anymore. So when I transitioned into this role about 6 months ago, I would be talking with students and students would say, "Hey, I heard that you struggled with food insecurity or housing insecurity." And then they would share stories with me of the same experiences that they had. And I was hearing these stories and they were almost identical to what I experienced when I was a student. And so one of the things that we've made a marquee initiative for our administration is that we are going to fight food and housing insecurity by creating a basic needs center for our students where we have a food pantry, clothing closet, resources for students all in one place. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to create more residential living opportunities. So housing for students on campus where when you go home, you don't just go home, but you go home to a meal, to academic advising, to tutoring, to supplemental instruction so that students have every single thing that they need. And how I think about my role as president is, and it's very enjoyable. I get to try to create the things that I wish I had when I was a student. And so having went to school here, having been part of this environment, it makes it so that I have a unique insight into the experiences that the students have here. And I have a little bit of understanding of what it takes to fix it and to make us an even better Sacramento State.
Wow. Yeah. If that's not a powerful thought of a president of a school, I don't know what else is. I've rarely met presidents who've been here, faced challenges, and then come in as a president to say, when I walk the streets of the campus, I actually look at myself 20 years ago. And that's super powerful. And I'm glad you share that. International is top of mind as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of growing the international population here. International students, especially Indian students where I'm from, they love California. They love CSU as a system.
And they love Sacramento State.
Let's say that. They love Sacramento State as well. Because we met a few students. Aran, I just interviewed her. Phenomenal student from India. I was inspired by her actually. I was telling her, it's like, when I meet students who have that story of, we've had very little financial need, financial help, and there are like 99% will say, that's the reason for me to not go to school, college, or do well in my career. And then there's that 1% who says, let me just text the president on Instagram and see what happens. And she did that. And that kind of, I think that's a good segue for us into the Combat U program also that you're setting up. Yeah. But before that, your goals on international, growing it by 10% in the next few years, would love to hear about that and where you think international will go.
Yeah, I mean, we have an ambitious goal to increase the population of students who are from abroad here at Sacramento State. And part of it is access. We want to be able to provide access for individuals to come get a high quality education at Sacramento State and have the experience that they deserve. We know too often that many of our students who come internationally, they go to a community college or to other universities, and they don't have a positive experience. They're not in an environment that cares about them. They're not around educators who believe in them, who are going to invest in them. And so we want to be the exact opposite. We want to be the magnet that people look at that, hey, I can have a good experience. I'm going to be treated with dignity. I'm going to be given support. I'm going to have a president and a campus administration who cares about me, not as a number, but as a person and as a future. And so that's one of the things that we're focused on. And and how it came out is we did these listening sessions. So I I got hired in here as president. And we decided that we were going to do listening sessions. So we did 92 listening sessions with the campus community, students, faculty, staff, alumni, business leaders. And we asked them, what is it that makes us distinctive? Where do you want to see us 5 years from now or even tomorrow? And what are the specific things you think that we need to do to get there? And from that, we heard a lot of people say that some of our international students come here and they feel a bit isolated because there may be too few people who are coming from their same community. Yeah. And at the same time, we know that these are our best students, some of our best students for sure. They're committed to their education. They're taking big risks for their families. And so why don't we be more aggressive in creating the environment where you don't have to come and feel like you're the only person. And you don't have to come to a campus where you feel like you're a guest in someone else's house, that you can come to a place like Sacramento State and feel like you are at home. And that's the environment we're trying to create.
That's amazing. I mean, I came here as an international student and you feel isolated because suddenly you're not just away from your family, you're away from your country, you're away from all the food that you know, the language, the accent, you're aware, and then suddenly everything switches. And there's that unpredictable immigration system that you have to navigate, and there's so much happening. So I love the fact that you say that. Yeah. And especially for we work with a lot of students from the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, Latin America. There are these pockets of students, but in a lot of institutions, a lot of cities, you'll find these pockets of students. When I was studying in Boston, there's a bunch of Indian students around the Northeastern Boston University campuses, but they were kind of on their own, right? So the way you would connect is reach out to them on Facebook because there's a Boston Indians group versus through the institution, right? And I would have loved for my institution to be able to do that. So those are the things I would love to see on campuses, and sounds like some of that's coming, especially when you do this.
It's coming. We're actively building the environment that our students deserve right now, not tomorrow, not 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Right now, that's the environment that we're building. And And we're proud of that. We're proud that that is a focus for us and that the campus community has been embracing that focus and direction.
Yes. One important question about financial aid and scholarships in general for international students. For a lot of them, studying in America is not affordable, leave alone living in California.
Yep.
So what can we expect from Sac State in terms of just being able to fund students, international students?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because part of what came out of the listening sessions is that we have a lot of money in scholarships on campus that aren't reaching students. And the reason that they're not reaching students is because we have people, when they give money, they oftentimes want to give money to somebody who is just like them. So you have a donor, right? Let's just say that I was a donor. So I'm from CSU County, right? I'm a Black male. I did ethnic studies as an undergraduate here. And I was in student government. So what if I said, hey, I'm going to create a scholarship, and that scholarship is going to be for former foster youth, Black male from CSU County who's in student government. Now, every 20 years, when that one person comes by, we have some dollars we can give them. But then what happens is all that money just sits in the bank and it just accumulates over time.
Interesting. And so for the remaining 19 years, if nobody shows up with that combination, that money is not given out.
Correct.
Okay.
And we can't because we have very specific guidelines so that if a donor gives you money for something, you have to honor what that money is for.
That's right.
So what we're doing right now is a massive initiative. We're going back out to all of our donors right now, and we're asking them to take off GPA requirements. We're asking them to take off California residency requirements, U.S. citizenship requirements, so that we can specifically open up our dollars, our scholarship dollars for students who are either undocumented and are international students, so that we can make sure that the money we have is reaching the communities who need it. And so that's something we're doing that I don't know anybody else who's doing that.
No.
And we're doing it not only for scholarships that we already have in place, but every time now when I meet with a donor about new scholarships, we're saying we need to have maximum flexibility, because too often what you find is if you're a student and you're coming here from overseas, you can't work anywhere unless it's on campus and you can't get scholarship dollars. Like, that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah.
So if we're going to be a campus that says, hey, we're going to have 10% of our enrollment from international and out-of-state students, then we have to start acting like it. And that's what we're doing right now.
Wow. Love it. Love it. So it's going to be more about a student's potential to be successful and if they're deserving, rather than focus on race, nationality, and where they're from, and
all
gender.
are welcome here.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And that's something a student like me who was like 10 years ago looking for education would have loved to hear.
Gosh. Do you have a master's degree?
I have 2 master's degrees.
Do you have a doctorate?
No.
Come get it at Sacramento State.
Let's make it happen. It's on record.
You knew I was setting up for that one.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Yes, and I will consider it for sure.
Okay. There we go.
My wife is a PhD in education.
Oh,
She's
excellent.
the dean of a
Excellent.
business school. Yeah.
Where at?
Back in Siberia, in Irkutsk.
That's amazing.
Small city, but yeah, she left all that to come to the U.S. and
so 2 powerhouses come together. Yeah, that's the other thing. I met my wife here at Sacramento State.
Wow.
And I gotta say, I meet so many of our alumni. Like, you didn't come here to meet your partner, but it's always nice when you can meet your partner in an environment like this. And so I find it's actually a theme among our alumni. I'll be talking to them and like, oh yeah, well, this is so-and-so, and this is so-and-so. Oh, we're married. Oh yeah, we met at Sac State. So it's kind of a thing too.
I love it.
Just a positive environment.
My wife and I met at B School.
See, there you go. You met at school.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Still bearing with each other. But that's amazing.
Yeah.
One question I have to ask you, which is, I've not seen any school try to fuse curriculum with combat training.
Yeah.
And I read about Combat U. I spoke to some people. I went to the gym.
Yeah.
Piram here took us to the gym. We took a bunch of videos there. President Wood, Combat U, something that's really special that I've not seen happen anywhere, where you're fusing curriculum with something like combat training. You're calling it Combat University, Combat U. You're personally a big fan of combat training. You know a lot of students on campus who are a big fan of that. I visited the gym where you actually train.
Yeah.
Very inspired. Would love to hear your rationale behind bringing this into Sac State as part of the programs.
Yeah, so I am an amateur boxer, and so I train every single day. I spar pretty much every weekend. Sparred yesterday, and it's a normal part of just my lifestyle. And I think it's important for confidence. It's important for being healthy. It's important just in every single possible way, psychologically, physiologically, etc. And what happened is I was posting some videos of myself doing some boxing, right? Some sparring sessions. And then I got announced to become the president of Sacramento State. And so very proud of that. And then we had a student who had just been accepted and who was coming to Sacramento State. And I got a message from them on Instagram, Aaron John, and basically said that, hey, I've been accepted to Sacramento State, saw that you boxed, I do jujitsu, and I'm getting ready to come to campus. And I said, that's wonderful. Did you know that Uriah Faber's Ultimate Fitness, where Team Alpha Male trains out of, the number one, or for certain in the top MMA gyms in the world, is just a couple blocks from campus? And she said, yeah, that's why I'm coming. And I started to realize that there was this whole group of students who were coming locally, nationally, and internationally from all around the world because they wanted to get high quality academic training and high quality training in mixed martial arts. And so now, like when I'm walking across campus after we've announced Combat U, I have so many students coming up to me telling me that's how they came to Sac State. That's how they chose Sac State, because of that relationship. So what Combat U does is it is the first collegiate pathway into professional mixed martial arts and boxing. So if you think about any other sport, baseball, you play college, you go pro. Basketball, you play college, you go pro. Football, you play college, you go pro. Golf, you play college, you go pro. But if I said boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, MMA, there's not that same kind of collegiate pathway in that same sense at such a large scale level. And so basically what we are is essentially the farm for those who want to become a professional fighter, whether it's in boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, and they want to eventually go on to the UFC. And so basically it's open to anybody of all levels. You can be an entry-level person who's just wanting to do it just to work out and have a good time. You can be like me, someone who likes to spar, get in there, mix it up. You can be on one of our amateur teams, National Collegiate Boxing Association, wrestling team, etc. Or you can be part of our pro development team. And the executive coach for our program is UFC Hall of Famer Uriah Faber. So Uriah is the coach over this whole thing. And basically it's a pro development team for those who want to become professional boxers or professional mixed martial artists. And the response from the community has been amazing. A lot of people are really excited about it because this is creating a pathway to college for many people who oftentimes college would not be something that they would think about. I spent a lot of time in boxing gyms, right? It's usually low income, first generation students of color. Conversations about college, non-existent. Yeah. And so now we're changing the narrative. And the narrative is you can come get a scholarship to box for Sacramento State. You can come get a scholarship to do jiu-jitsu, enroll for Sacramento State. That's a different message. And so what we want students to know is that they'll be fighting for us, Sacramento State, but at the same time, we'll be fighting for them to make sure that they have everything they need to get their degree and walk across their stage. And when they graduate from this institution and they've been through this program, one way that we'll know that they're successful is when they can negotiate their own contracts. Because too often you hear this about folks in music, folks in entertainment, and those in professional combat sports, they get taken advantage of. But they're going to learn the principles about how to not, and recognize that it's not the fight game, it's the fight business. So there also is other opportunities that go along with this. Maybe you're not a person who wants to compete personally, but you're really interested in combat sports. Well, there's a whole media side to it, right? There's those who want to do sports therapy or kinesiology. There's those who are interested in the business side of it. So think about all the opportunities for those who are interested in like, hey, I want to take my degree in sociology, economics, whatever it is, and apply it to the field of MMA or professional boxing. And then the third component of this is that we're also bringing marquee events here to Sac State. So we have a partnership with A1 Combat Sports. They stream their fights on UFC Fight Pass and ESPN. We just had their event here on campus. They have other events that are coming up. They're taking place here on campus. So you can go and watch high quality MMA and boxing in person. And I can't say what the next group is, but we're working on closing a deal right now where the highest level of professional boxing will be housed here at Sacramento State.
That's
so
impressive.
Come enjoy, come watch, come fight, come learn, come train, come be at Sacramento State.
That's impressive. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And I love the metaphor. You fight for us, we fight for you.
Yeah.
It'll stay. It'll stay with me. That's amazing.
Another way to say is we're going to give students a fighting chance.
Love it. Love it. And I'm assuming based on what you've said, this applies to even international students, domestic, anybody, right? Those scholarships and being part of
100%.
Combat U, because it even started with like a little bit of inspiration from an international student.
Yeah, and in fact, we've built this entire thing really with international students in mind. I mean, of course, it also is for our domestic students, but when I think of Combat U, I want students coming here from India, from Brazil, from Suriname, from China, from Russia, from all over the world. We've got some of the best mixed martial artists right now are in West Africa. Well, if they're looking at a place where they can have this unique meld of athletic training and academic training, there's no other place on the planet. There is no other Combat U anywhere else. We are the first ever institution to be able to put something like this into place. And so we're creating an experience that is unique and one that will hopefully draw in students from all over the world to know that they can do both. They don't have to sacrifice their education to be a martial artist, and they don't have to sacrifice being a martial artist for their education. They can do both.
Wow. I mean, if I think of it, the way I feel like three things had to come together. A president who has that background and who has the interest in that.
Yeah.
A gym that's close by, that's run by a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And a student saying, hey, we're interested.
Yeah.
And like all of that happening at the same time. But when you became president, is just shocking for me.
Yeah,
in some ways.
It was meant to be, right?
Love it.
And I love training myself, right? So I box. As I mentioned, I train every day. So I'm looking at being in there with the students, getting some good workouts with them, and helping to motivate them. I feel like when you're in the gym and the president of the university is in there training with you because they believe in what you're doing so much that they're going to be beside you. Not behind you, but beside you. I think that says something.
Oh, a lot. Yes. And I saw videos of you even on campus during events and stuff, just walking around in your, in regular clothing without a jacket, like just being part of the student body. Loved it. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a beautiful campus and beautiful students.
And outside of the scholarship itself, are you thinking about like integrating it into the curriculum in other ways?
So that's a great point. It is certainly a long-term goal of ours.
Yeah.
That is also a conversation that has to necessarily involve our faculty, right? Because even though I come from the faculty ranks, that would be something that would be taught by faculty members. I will say this, just to foreshadow a little bit. I had a conversation earlier today with a faculty member who was very eager to start putting curriculum in place, history of MMA, psychology of MMA, philosophy of combat sports. And so I think that you're going to be seeing some very specific and unique academic offerings here that you won't be seeing anywhere else in the world.
I love it. Love it. Anything else that I should ask you?
Nothing that comes to mind, but just to close by saying that, as you said, this whole idea came from an international student who went above and beyond to basically say, I'm going to reach out to the president and tell them what I'm doing. And so I hope that every single one of our students who are international who are coming here, that they feel that same sense of comfort with me and with our campus leadership, that this is an institution that will truly value them, value their presence, and fight for them.
Wow. Love it. Love it. And the best way for a student to reach out to the president? Instagram?
Well, that's one way, but we oftentimes encourage them to send us an email at president@csus.edu. That's president@csus.edu.
Perfect.
Or feel free to comment on Instagram.
I must tell you, that was one of the coolest stories I heard. When, I spoke to Aran and she said, yeah, I texted President Wood on Instagram. And I'm like, wow, I've never heard that, a president, like you look at your Instagram feed and you're like, I'm going to respond to that student.
Yeah, but that's the priority.
That's amazing. Good stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much, President Wood.
Hey, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.